What is one practice you can put in your business to support your growth that millionaires are known to use? One of the things I've realized from working with different business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, is that there is a tendency to value action above everything else. Yet action is only one side of a double-sided coin, action and reflection. Now think of this. Bill Gates twice a year takes a whole week off his Think Week where he disconnects from daily operations to focus only on reflection, reading, innovation, growth. And this has been some of the most insightful, big transitions that he has experienced in the company have been a direct result of his Think Week. Things like launching the Internet Explorer or even Google Maps satellite view and Google Earth were projects that came from his Think Week, where he reviewed all the articles and suggestions from the employees, and this gave him insights to choose certain ones that were maybe the biggest game changers in the business. Now, if billionaires like Bill Gates are doing this, what would be the equivalent in your own business if you were to take a whole week off? Now, for some of you, it might feel challenging to take a whole week off just to focus on business reflection. And if this feels like too much, there is an alternative, though not quite as powerful, can still make a huge difference in your business. And this is a Think Day. And I did one very recently where I took the whole day off to focus only on the business vision, the values, the direction, some of the core processes, and it is truly invigorating. Not only do you then reconnect with yourself and your purpose and why you're running the business, it also helps you to think more strategically and clearly, and also to confront maybe certain things that you're not addressing. We all go through periods where different things in the business are roadblocks and obstacles, and if you pause for a whole day, you're able to see with more clarity. I will also link in the show notes this fantastic article by Sahil, who's an entrepreneur and the author of The 5 Types of Wealth. And in this article, he highlights different questions that you can ask yourself during a Think Day or during a Think Week to audit the current state of the business. So rather than give you a lot of these different questions, I will put in the comments below, in the links below, and you will be able to read that article in depth when you're going through your own Think Day. Incidentally, Sahil also mentioned that this is a practice that he has been putting in place for several months now, where he has a day off per month to reflect on the business. When I call it a day off, it's not really a day off, it's a Think Day, a reflection day where you're able to go deeper. While I was doing this Think Day in my own company, I came up with this 5P process that helps me to review and to put this in place for the following time. So I will share these 5Ps that can support you when you're going through a Think Day or Think Week. If you're courageous to take a whole week off and you're able to create that space, then you might enjoy also using that process for the whole course of a week. But even just a day or a day a month can be an absolute game changer. That level of clarity and space that you get from it, and just stepping out of the daily operations and the daily grind, can really totally change the way you approach your company and help you to pivot and transition in lots of different ways. So here are the 5Ps. The first one is purpose. Within this one of purpose, it's re-looking at what is your why, what is your core vision? What are some of the core values in the business? Are you still aligned with all of these? I recently did an episode on alignment that you might want to check out. This can also help you to check in with yourself and see, are you still within alignment with your values, with your purpose, with your vision, and can help you to see also some incongruences. Maybe some things that you say you highly value. For instance, in my case, one of my core values is curiosity, but maybe if I wasn't doing a lot of learning or training or reading, I would feel that there's a disconnect, because this is a huge part of what I enjoy of running my own company, is this ability to be curious and constantly learning. So if I felt after a while that this isn't something I was doing, when I would do then my Think Day, I would realize, oh, this is a mismatch. So this is the first P of purpose, and it really helps you to set the fundamentals again in place. Why are we here? Where we're going? What are some of the core values and principles that we follow within the business that are important for us in terms of how we lead our own company. The second one is plans. So this is setting your goals for the next month, for the next quarter, for the next year, and checking that these goals are directly in tune and aligned with the vision and with the purpose, and seeing what other things you need to take into account when it comes in terms of plans. Because it's not just goals as in tangible results, it might be more subtle things, some shifts in environment, behaviors, team members, certain projects you want to quit, because these tend to be things we don't necessarily put as goals, something that you want to stop or pivot or change. So it's really plans overall. It includes goals, but it also different shifts and changes that you want to make within the business that are relevant, and maybe certain intention, how you want to show up. If you're leading a team of 10, 20, 50, 100 plus people, how do you want to show up as a leader? In this plans part could also be certain virtues that you want to show through the way you're leading your business and your company, and being sure that you remember these. So keeping them top of mind, because sometimes we set these amazing intentions, but then we forget about them. So what are some ways that you can keep all of this in mind? For example, in my case, when I did my Think Day, I created a Notion tab that now I always leave open, and it's called Let's Go. And in it, I have those 5 P's, and I can review it regularly. The purpose and vision and values, the plans, and then the other P's in the framework. So the third one is processes. Plans was more around goals and different team members, maybe clients, projects you want to change, virtues as a leader, and then processes are really more the nitty-gritty. It's a slightly more boring, but it's realizing what are some frameworks, what are some processes that maybe need to change, what are some things you keep doing that no longer have a purpose, and what are some things that maybe need to be slightly more lean, maybe outsourced or delegated or eliminated. That's also an option. And thinking, okay, what are some processes here that I can put in place that would make a difference in the business? One of the processes I often go back to is something I call DBA, Daily Bold Action. And I realized at one stage in my business, if every single day I take at least one bold action, this has an exponential impact on the business. So carving out that DBA would be one of the processes I would then put in place. Example of bold actions can be anything from reaching out to a fantastic podcast guest to pitching for a new speaking event, reaching out to different clients, doing a post that maybe makes me feel slightly uncomfortable, and many different ways to do bold actions. And this is an example of one process that I think, okay, where will I put this in my daily plan or my weekly plan, and how will I ensure that it happens? This is one example of a process. The fourth step is priorities. Very often, when you're running your own company, you're wearing a lot of different hats, there's a lot of things happening, and you might be juggling all of your different priorities. And you want to think of the rocks and the pebbles. The pebbles are the most important task, and the rocks are the less important but sort of urgent task. And if you imagine that your time and energy is a jar, if you first fill it with all the little rocks, there's no space for the big pebbles. Now, if you change this around and you first put in the larger stones, then there's still space for the little stones and the sand. It's this metaphor and image of the jar as your time and energy can remind you that focusing mostly on the most important task is more relevant, and you'll always find space to do the urgent little things around it. But if you shift and do all the urgent little things, there is no space or time for the important activities. And this is why people like Brian Tracy talk about eat that frog, start the day with your most important task. This is why Carl Newport talks about deep work first thing in the morning. There are so many examples here of prioritizing the important activities. So when you're reviewing your own priorities within the business, being totally honest, are you chasing antelopes or field mice? This is the example Sahil Bloom used in his article. I'd never read this before. I would think of the pebbles and the rocks, and he called it antelopes or field mice. So field mice are the unimportant nitty-gritty thing. antelopes are the big core activities. If you wanted more metaphors, you can create your own. But the most important part is realizing, are your actions really aligning with your core priorities, or are you diluting your time and energy on activities that aren't quite as important and are taking up a lot of your time? And the fifth category, the fifth P, is what I called pop. And pop were these short, fast, snippy actions that you could take to get the ball moving, to get that momentum. 5 to 10 small items that will have a big impact, small items that create that leverage, maybe some bold task activities, and these are the ones that will have a significant event, and more than anything else will help you to have that momentum. So this is what I called pop. So looking back at our 5P framework, we've got first the purpose, then looking at your plans and different projects, the processes, then your priorities, and pop, those small, quick actions you can get out of the way to gain that momentum. This is an example of a framework you can use in that Think day to create that more reflective space, because as we know, action and reflection are two sides of the same coin of high performance. You can't have high performance if you're only in action the whole time. You need to pause, you need to reflect. We need to slow down in order to speed up. I hope this has been useful for you. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, leave a comment, whether you're checking this on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.